Let's begin with a state of play update on Mexico's economy. What is its direction?
Mexico's economy is set to grow by more than 4.5% this year and by close to 4% in 2012. This rate of growth is much higher than the average of the past decade and is being driven by investment and consumption, as well as manufacturing related to the export sector, especially to the U.S. The Mexican consumer continues to show greater strength after suffering the impact of the recession during 2009. Employment has picked up substantially, with over 1 million jobs created since the recovery started. Overall, credit to the private sector has recovered substantially. It's growing almost 10% annually and will continue to drive economic growth during the next few years. Investment will be propelled by the public sector as the electoral process gets underway and public projects are intensified. With respect to inflation, Mexico is under a very benign environment. Yearly inflation will be below 4% during 2011 and should remain at those levels next year.
So what opportunities are there for banks, and Banorte in particular, to make progress in market penetration in Mexico?
Well, banking penetration is still very low in Mexico. Credit to the private sector as a percentage of GDP is below 20%, a level that compares poorly with respect to other Latin American countries, such as Brazil, which is now above 40%, and Chile, which is over 70%. Also, prior to the tequila crisis of 1994, loans represented more than 40% of GDP, but then sharply contracted to almost 5% of GDP as the financial sector was forced to deleverage because of rising delinquencies and lack of capital. Today, there are wide opportunities to target SMEs, consumers, and mortgage loans. In the SME front, only 20% of their financing comes through the banking sector. Since SMEs generate more than 2/3 of Mexico's overall employment, banking penetration in this segment can have a very relevant impact in economic development. In terms of mortgage and consumer lending, penetration in those segments is only 3% and 5% of GDP respectively. In the mortgage sector, there is a housing deficit of more than 4 million homes and almost 1 million new households are created every year. The Mexican population is still below 30 years of age on average, so this demographic bonus guarantees continued demand for the years to come.
Mexico has a big seven in banking, so what's the competition and how are you responding?
The competitive landscape has been reshaped since 2008, when the crisis obligated many of our foreign-owned peers to retrench in order to deal with the problems of their parent companies. During those years, Banorte was also affected by asset quality problems, especially in credit cards and SMEs, which were exacerbated when the swine flu crisis struck Mexico. Nonetheless, we proactively restructured and wrote off many of the problematic loans, and we also implemented solutions for clients with willingness to pay but who were facing temporary hardship. As we were able to resolve those problems, Banorte emerged as one of the best positioned banks in Mexico. We were able to increase our market share in low-risk segments, such as mortgage and government loans, and being domestically owned mattered. We took advantage of it, and we started to differentiate from our peers through innovation, servicing, local decision-making, as well as human capital development. Currently, the competitive environment is starting to intensify once more. Banks are becoming more aggressive in attracting retail time deposits by offering more attractive interest rate to their potential clients. Also, they are offering government and corporate clients more attractive spreads on their loans and have reactivated mortgage and consumer lending. Banorte is responding through a more competitive product offering and more comprehensive client relationships.
Let's look at Banorte's merger with ICSE. What was the rationale there?
Well, the main driver for this merger was to increase Banorte's profitability potential and market scale. ICSE was present in various market segments where Banorte was underrepresented, such as premium banking and wholesale banking, as well as in regions where Banorte was lacking enough scale, such as Mexico City. Through the merger, Banorte ICSE becomes the top player in premium banking, with the only truly dedicated network of 160 branches to service this segment. The merger will also allow ICSE to position its brand in regions and cities where it could not enter previously because of the important investments needed to build a backbone to service the branches. Since Banorte has a national presence, ICSE will now be able to take advantage of Banorte's middle and back offices to open those branches that it previously could not open because of its lack of scale. In wholesale banking, Banorte ICSE will become one of the leading institutions in Mexico. This area is co-headed by two of the most renowned bankers in the field. It will have a comprehensive model focused on cross-selling and building long-term client relations, offering investment banking services, asset management, debt and equity capital markets, mutual fund research, private equity, corporate and government banking, private banking, among others.
Corporate social responsibility is part of Banorte's culture. So what are your latest CSR priorities and projects?
Since its inception, Banorte has had a permanent commitment with our community, our environment, our clients, our shareholders, and Mexicans' overall well-being. Its commitment is deeply rooted in our essence and our daily work to support all Mexicans and participate in our country's sustainable development. Today, at Grupo Financiero Banorte, sustainability means maximizing growth and profitability while seeking to achieve balance among economic, social, and environmental aspects of our business. We achieve this by using a four-pillar framework: equality and governance, community commitment, environmental responsibility, and value chain to articulate our sustainability objectives. In order to strengthen and reinforce its culture of responsibility, Banorte has laid down guidelines in its conduct code that must be adhered to by our board members, executives, and employees of all the companies that make up the institution. Guidelines include aspects related to environment, supply chain, relation with community, among other aspects. CSR efforts are an integrated component of Banorte's SME strategy. These include education, service of clients, and the development of environmentally friendly products and loan incentives. By helping SMEs minimize environmental risks, generate cost-saving solutions, and capture economic and business opportunities, we are able to generate new value for our clients while also enhancing the quality of our loan portfolio. Banorte still has a long way to go in this field, but our CSR strategy is already providing tangible benefits and the hope to make Mexico stronger.
Mayra Hernandez, thank you. Finally, a big question. What do you think we've learned from the financial crisis?
Well, there were three lessons learned in the crisis. The first and most important one was to maintain solid fundamentals. Banorte was proactive in dealing with distressed loans, provisioning them well above the levels required by the authorities, and writing those loans off as soon as possible. This allowed us to have one of the lowest NPL ratios in the industry, which was a source of confidence during the crisis. Also, we always maintained high capitalization and liquidity levels, which sent a positive signal about the bank's strength and possibility to renew growth. The second lesson learned was to act proactively in dealing with problems. We approached clients that had temporary liquidity problems and offered them solutions to normalize this situation. We also confronted the issues with some of the large corporate exposures in our balance sheet, either by recognizing them as past due and writing them off, or else by restructuring them and increasing the provisioning levels, even if it meant sacrificing short-term profitability. The third and final lesson learned was to communicate intensively and maintain transparency with the markets. During the crisis, communications with our investor base and the financial markets intensified, even though many of the messages were negative at that moment. We also gave a very clear picture of the risks that the bank was facing and the strategies that we would be implementing in order to deal with these issues. As time progressed, we would explain the successes and shortfalls of this strategy and the adjustments that we were making in order to rectify any mistakes. Even though some investors punished us in the short term by bringing down our share price, in the long term, the investors that remained became more committed to our company and have a long-term view on their investment in the bank.
David Suarez, thank you very much.
Thank you.